Now the House is supposed to be the people's house. The House of Representatives is supposed to be the people's house. Back in the early days of our republic, people would take turns going to DC, and they hated it. Because they would have to leave their businesses, they would have to leave their farms, they would have to take their turn representing the community. Not now. You know, somebody gets elected, they're elected for life practically, unless they want to stop, no matter what they do. No matter what they do. And is it partial apathy on our part, and partial the system that resists the change? Because theoretically, I could have beaten Pelosi, right? I could have gotten more votes than she did, but realistically, no. Because the robber class in the media, the government, the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, and, you know, whatever big corporations, they collaborate together to keep us out. And it's not a conspiracy theory. You know, just to be on the ballot, I had to get 10,185 valid signatures. I had to turn in 20,000 just so they would validate 10,185. 2.5 hours before the Department of Election closed on the last day, they qualified me for the ballot. You know, Democrats, Republicans don't have to do that. They pay their filing fee, they get 30 signatures, and they're on the ballot. Why is that? Why? Who said? It's not in the Constitution that we can only be Democrat or Republican. No, there's no mention of political parties in the Constitution. As a matter of fact, our founding fathers, and I would like to say our founding parents, but there weren't any mothers there. Our founding fathers were resistant to political parties. You know, George Washington said, when you get political parties going, nothing gets done, right? It's just Nancy Pelosi. I'm picking on her because she's the one I know the best. Everything she does is for the Democratic Party. Not one thing is for the country. Everything is for the Democratic Party. Not one thing she does is for the country. If she did things for the country, she wouldn't pass any funding bills. If she was doing something for the country, she would have impeached George Bush and Dick Cheney while she had the chance. There would have been no banks or bailouts. We'd have single-payer health care, and university education would be universal and free for anybody who wanted to go to university here in America. But those things are only rights for the robber class. So my whole point of saying this story and talking about what I just talked about is for us to realize that the problems are systemic. And you're not going to change the problems by changing the facade. You know, you have to do some extensive, you know, remodeling. Not just remodeling, you have to like take the whole thing down and rebuild it again. I wish we could remodel the system. And that's what they want to do. They want to slap a coat of paint on it and say it's better when it's crumbling from the inside. So I wrote this book after the election because I was very frustrated. I was frustrated with the anti-war movement that, you know, seemed to me that their only energy was around electing Democrats. Well, that hasn't changed anything. If that changed anything, I would be out there working to elect Democrats. And I was frustrated with people who were writing to me on both sides of the issue, saying, you know, on one hand, emailing me on the right and saying, or from the right, and saying, Cindy, you're a big hypocrite because you were against George Bush's wars and you're not protesting Obama. Or you were against George Bush in Iraq and Afghanistan, but you're not protesting Iraq and Afghanistan and Obama. And I would tell them, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not paying attention. I've been one of Obama's earliest and most ardent critics of his policies. And secondly, if you supported Bush and his wars and don't support Obama, then doesn't that make you a hypocrite? But I say that to the left too. The left too. If you oppose Bush and his policies, then you don't have to oppose Obama, but you should still be opposing the policies. They're almost identically the same policies. So I was laying in bed one night after the election thinking, what keeps people bought into the system? A system that doesn't help us, but only helps the robber class. And I had already thought of the robber class and Rob's class before, during the election, during the bankster bailouts, when the Democrats conspired with Ben Bernanke and Hank Paulson and the Bush administration for these bankster bailouts. And that was the first one was back in October. So I started seeing that it was more of a class divide than a political divide. And so that's why I started calling it the robber class and the robbed class. It's very easy to understand. We in the robbed class, they take our money, they take our labor, they take our wealth, they take our land, and they even take our children to kill in their robber class wars and kill other people's children in their robber class wars. And the only reason they do it is because we let them. Is that we are accustomed to supporting them in the style which they've been accustomed to. While we're losing everything in this country in the robbed class. We're losing our homes, our jobs, our children, our security, economic and physical security.